everyone, and welcome back to another live coaching stream here on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, and wherever this thing might end up one day. So I just want to say I'm super excited to be back in the studio after being at Podcast Movement in Denver, Colorado, where I picked up a little bit of something, and I'm still eager to get right back into the live streaming coaching seat. And today we have Rezin joining us here for the very first time on this live coaching experience. But Rezin has been a member of my community for many years, a longtime entrepreneur, and has had some incredible successes. And when I made the offer for some live streaming coaching, he said, "Hey, I'd love to touch base with you." And I said, "Hey, what's the most important thing you want to get out of our time together?" And with after some successful building of businesses, some sales, some lessons learned throughout the journey, he's now eager to figure out what is the next right decision for moving forward into the next stage of life. So, Rezin, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Cliff?
I have never been better, and it gets better every minute of the day. And I'm still able to say that is and the reality is that, as I was telling you before we went live here today, as you can tell, I'm still getting over whatever it was that I picked up in Denver, and I can only hear about 20% out of my right ear right now due to a potential temporarily, hopefully, ruptured eardrum. But the reality is life is good. And I absolutely love to get to do what I do for a living. And that's why I can say that, technically speaking, I've never been better.
It's great.
So tell us a little bit about your um, business journey. I want to hear a little bit about your successes that you've had, and then we can get into what's next for you.
Sure. So I grew up in Ohio here, basically in a community that was all farmers. Everybody was poor. So I knew early on that I wanted to be more than just what was available in my community. So I went to college. I was actually the first person to graduate college out of my family and went on to travel and do a lot of work. But through that process, I decided early on, well, I didn't know who I was at that time, but later on, I discovered I was supposed to be an entrepreneur because I just could not work 9 to 5 for the standard person. So I did. I started very early. I was always had a job, but I was always looking for a side hustle to get out of that job to do something on my own. So way back in the day, I started back when there was dial-up internet. I had an ISP provider, and people would subscribe, and I would give them subscriptions to that. That was my first side hustle. And then from there, I went through some weird stages. Didn't know what I wanted to do with myself. So we came back to Ohio from Illinois. We were actually working with friends in real estate investment. Came back during the collapse when the big balloon busted. And my wife was offered a job at a daycare to run it. So I went to work with a friend of mine who was an insurance agent and did that gig for a while until the daycare got so big that I actually was able to quit my job and go work doing that. So my wife and I did that for a few years, and then we're like, I think it's time for the next adventure in our lives. So we sold the daycare and moved to Arizona to open a children's concept. Do you know the little animal rides that you see in the mall, the little kids riding around? We started that concept out there, did that for a year, and sold it to a Phoenix Sun dancer. So we got to get in that realm for a little while, which was very interesting in life to see those type of people and how they were like models, dancers. So here we are, the chunky fat kids hanging out with the popular people, and it was quite an interesting situation. But then we were moving to Louisiana to help a church launch a daycare and consult with them, and that's when the flood happened in Louisiana. And I think about 85% of everybody in Livingston Parish lost everything. So we ended up spending 6 months there volunteering at a distribution center, helping bring product in from Ohio and then giving out everything from baby wipes to diapers to food, just whatever they needed because they were in need. So we left there, came back to Ohio, and then I went into the oil and gas business for a season and then launched my own insurance agency. And then during that time, I wanted to pivot out of oil and gas, but the insurance company was taking too long to get up and running. So we had some equity in it, sold it, and then got back into the daycare business. And here we are today, back in the daycare business. And then through that process, we've onboarded a company that allows us to coach with them for daycare. And through this process, I've met a lot of daycare owners throughout the US. And the huge need right now in daycare with owners is virtual assistants. They're finding that it's costing them too much, or they can't find the local employment to do administrative tasks for them. So my wife and I launched a virtual assistant company. And that's been our history is we always find a need somewhere. And then we're like, is this our pivot or do we stick with what we're doing? Because I also like to create content. So I thought about doing like podcast or rather daycare coaching for people that need it. That because there's a lot of people realize we're pretty far advanced in daycare compared to a lot of other people, but you don't feel like you are when you're in the moment, but you really are. So we have a lot of wisdom that we could offer other people. Um, or do I just pivot completely out and go strictly to content coaching? I don't know. I don't know how to determine what's the best thing to do because I'm getting old. I'm not employable anymore. So I can't just quit, go get a job somewhere. Because once they see that you were doing your own business for so long, you're unemployable at that point. So I don't know where do I pivot to that's safe, but also something I enjoy doing that's productivity and it's part of my calling, as well as offering mutually beneficial information. You know, what do I have that I can offer other people that's quality and mutually beneficial? So that's kind of my life in a 5-minute nutshell.
Well, you've got a lot of experience in business, that's for sure. And there's no doubt in my mind that lots of lessons learned. Seems like a lot of folks who are in positions such as ours, we like to lean in and teach what we've learned to others. So, have you done any coaching since this is something that you're considering?
I've done it on a very small scale, but not put myself out there where I would say, you know, that I actually accepted money to do it. I did do coaching for a nonprofit for about a year, um, and tried to help them, but they weren't susceptible to change. So I felt like it was a year of wasted time. But I did have experience doing it. And what I gave them was wisdom and it was wise. It's just they did not want to pivot or change their business to match what suggestions I had for them.
Excellent. So, what would you like to most get out of our conversation today? What's the most important thing for you to walk away with?
Just affirmation that I'm not crazy and that do I pivot? Do I stick with what I'm doing? I kind of just need maybe life coaching more than career coaching? Like, where do I go? What's the, because when you have a family and you have support a family, you know, money can be gone tomorrow. You know, it's not something that when you're an entrepreneur, you're either making it or not making it. There's no fallback. So I just need to know, like, am I making wise decisions? What should my pivot be? And when do I know when that pivot is? Because just because I know how to do something doesn't mean it's my passion.
Bear with me right now because there's just been an avalanche of language that I need to capture. Some great stuff for us to dig in on. So, when you're supporting a family, let me just write this down. The money could be gone tomorrow. Did I get that right?
Yep.
All right. Bear with me. I'm running a live transcript as well.
Sure.
And so every time I move my mouse, I absolutely engage my um, screensaver and have to log in, find my mouse again. And I'm going to pull up this live transcript. The only thing is as we keep talking, it keeps building. So I'm going to find just a moment because there
Sure.
was just so much gold in what you just shared. And it's not just for you reason, but it's everybody else has, we all have had these thoughts and these feelings and things. So I'm just waiting for this to pull up here. Here we go. And I'm going to be really silent so that it won't continue to build. All right. Let me just do this. All right. I got the transcript up.
Okay.
So the first one, affirmation that I'm not crazy. All right. What? Let me ask you, what is it about what you're facing that makes you feel crazy?
Well, because my wife and I are very entrepreneurial. We are doing things that is unheard of in our circle of people and our family. So every time we tell our family, "Oh, we're doing this," they're like, "Oh yeah, there they go. They're crazy."
So crazy or they're extraordinary?
um, Extraordinary to you and I, crazy to everybody on the outside world.
Okay.
Because not everybody has that entrepreneur mind that understands how we tick.
Okay. Do you understand how you tick?
I like to think I do, but the more I go down this rabbit hole, the more I think I don't.
Is what I love about what you just said. I hear, I like to think that I do, but all these people questioning me has me questioning myself. Is that an accurate statement?
For the most part, yes.
So, have you heard me talk about what you focus on is what you will feel?
Yes.
So, if you focus on the fact that, hey, I'm making some decisions, I'm pivoting in one direction, I and only I know exactly what I've experienced over the last 20 years of my life. And only I see what I'm seeing every single moment of every single day. And based upon that and the intuition, given all of my years of education, experience, areas of expertise, skills, talents, and abilities, am able to see all of these things and navigate and make in the moment decisions that are best for myself and my family. Nobody else has that ability to see all the things that I have seen. And if I were to focus on the fact that the decisions that I'm making are made and based upon all of that solid evidence, now there may be some sources to go to even get further confidence in your own decisions, but let's just stay here for just a moment. If you were to focus on that being the basis of your decisions, and you did not seek the feedback or validation of any of those people who don't understand life as an entrepreneur, do you see how you would actually not feel crazy at all?
Yeah.
So, where's the craziness coming from?
I don't know. Maybe it's just it may be a something that I feel from time to time because we do take a lot of risk. That's outside of probably what anybody would advise in most cases.
Now, explain to me, who is anyone? So,
So,
let me write this down
sure.
first. I'm going to write down, we do take a lot of risks that would be more than anyone would advise. I just wanted to get that down. So, how many people have you sought feedback from some of these risks that you've taken?
So for the daycare, for example, our accountant and our coaches have all said that we shouldn't grow too fast. But I don't feel like everybody understands the market that we're in like we do, that fast growth is our means. Because right now there's a huge thing going on in Ohio as far as early ed's going. There's a lot of grants, and the more centers we had, and not only that, but there's like a lot of waiting spaces for children. There's not enough room for them to all get in to have daycare. So if we can expand quicker and move faster, we can capture this. But it's a cycle. So 7, 8 years from now, if politicians change, then the grant money will change, and then that cycle may be over. So we won't have the opportunity to expand quickly then. It'll be a more slow expansion. So that's where I'm coming from. And when do you listen to it, your gut instinct, and when do you listen to wisdom?
So, these coaches, do they have experience in your business?
Yes.
Okay.
but not in rural Ohio.
Okay, fair
They're
enough.
in big cities or, areas that doesn't necessarily meet my demographics or my model.
What are the potentials on the other side? What are the warning signs? What kind of experience are your coaches sharing with you about why they're advising you to slow the growth?
They're basically advising on how they did it and how they were coached to do it, not necessarily a success or fail model. Some of them have had failures, but they were also opening centers in areas that didn't meet good demographics either, or
Hmm.
have good a lot of subsidy pay.
So there's something that I heard about a year ago. I think it was Chris Brogan that said this, and it might have been a tweet. Anyway, he said something like the fact that, hey, all coaching is biographical, meaning that coaches, we don't always have the right answer. In fact, a really great coach is going to do more to ask questions to pull the answers out of you. If you ask us for advice, typically that advice is going to come through the filter of our own experiences, from our own education, from our own experience, our own areas of expertise, and things of that. But it's also from our own perspective. And it may even come from our own set of limiting beliefs because each of us as coaches still are working to unravel some of those limitations in our own minds. One of the things to be concerned about is people who are on the hook for wanting to see you succeed. Sometimes there are those who would like to see you play it safe because at least they won't be on the hook for giving
Right.
you advice that causes potential damage or harm.
Sure.
So there's a scripture that I'm reminded of also that plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors they succeed. And this is coming from my own autobiographical experience. I'm pretty sure you know who is in my green room mastermind that I meet with on a weekly basis.
Yes.
And when I made the decision to shut down my podcast Answer Man business, all but one member of my group absolutely told me this is the worst thing you could do, shutting down all of your income from podcast Answer Man and going all in on this mindset coaching stuff, Cliff. It just doesn't make any sense. I don't know how you're going to provide for your family. This just whatever you do, don't do this. Go do these things instead. And I think about, plans fail for the lack of advisors, but lack of counsel, but with many advisors, they succeed. So I thought, well, maybe I should just get some more advisors and see if there was anybody else that would back me up. And the only three people that backed up my way of it was myself, my intuition, my gut feeling, my wife, and one of my best friends on this planet, Ray Edwards. Everybody else said, Cliff, this just doesn't seem right. So I sought some more counsel, and they all leaned on the other side. And I'm like, wow. Then it came to me. It's like, it doesn't say that plans fail for lack of counsel, but with following the advice of many advisors, they succeed. It just says that once you have their advice, and so I listened to the opposing advice, I listened to all the reasons, and there was a compelling case for everything they argued. But when it came down to it, it's like, I don't know that I would have the same zest for life. I don't know that I'd have the same drive. It's just like there's something calling me to separate from that and go this path. And I have the support of my spouse, which was essential to me personally. And I had the support of one other friend, but I don't know that that was absolutely essential. But I had the support of my spouse, I had the support of one of my greatest friends, and I had this internal knowing that this is what I want and I desire, and it comes with risks. And my wife is aware that it comes with risks, and she's the only one that's going to help, going to co-experience those risks with me. If things go bad, and she's on board, and that's for me how I did it. Now, that's not my advice to you, but does that speak to you at all?
Oh yeah. Yeah. But there's also this mind or this thing in my mind that's always saying, what if this fails? You have to start all over. And that's why I'm always looking
Let
for,
me
like,
let's
now
pause you
we
right there.
Sure.
Is that true?
No,
Because I saw that in your application as well. That's the second time I've heard it from you. Once in written word, and now here. If this fails, we have to start all over. Is that true?
it feels like it.
What's the worst that could happen?
I have to go get a 9 to 5 job. That's the worst that could happen. And unfortunately, in our area, uh, that wouldn't cut our lifestyle that we've created at this point. So we'd have to change our complete lifestyle. And we don't have a luxurious lifestyle, but there's some things that's happened in our economy that has driven the price of everything in our economy up. Where this used to be easy to living, now it's more difficult.
Okay. Our area. Are you coming to me via a ultra high band with internet connection that's allowing for an HD video connection and solid audio, and
Yes.
and you are co-broadcasting to the internet all around the globe with me right here right now?
Yes.
Are you aware that the economy, especially since let me share with you a coaching conversation I had with a gentleman. This is in January of 2020. He says, "Cliff, here's the situation. I lived in California, made $160,000 a year doing fill in the blank for a company.
Mhm.
And then his wife wanted him to move back to her hometown. I can't remember where it was, but it was in the middle of nowhere, no opportunities. And so he's now working a job and he's making about $45,000 a year." I asked him, I said, "Well, if your main concern is revenue and you feel like your only opportunity is to go full-time self-employed," which it seemed to me it was a very clear indicator that he did not have the risk tolerance that you and I have as business owners. And he's like, "Cliff, I just don't want to, I can't think of any business, but I don't know any other way to make more money." I said, "Why don't you just go and get a better job, a higher paying job?" Well, given my experience and what I'm good at, the only thing that I could get paid at is this job. And there are no opportunities like that anywhere within a 100-mile radius. I said, "Well, then stop looking within a 100-mile radius. Are there or are there not other places in this country or around the world who need companies that need the amount of experience that you have?" I mean, you were incredibly powerful in your position in California, right? Yes. So why don't you go and find those companies that are looking for you and ask them, say, "Listen, I want you to hire me, but I'm going to be a distant worker, a remote worker." Nobody would ever, nobody would ever hire my position as a remote worker. I said, "Well, if you want to argue for that limitation and belief, you can hold on to it and you can continue to struggle, and or find a way, get into a new profession, whatever you need to do. But I'm telling you, I'd love to encourage you to go and find people who are doing your position from their home because it's happening." And he's like, I just don't believe, it is. I just don't believe it's possible." Well, then the pandemic happens. And guess what? Every single person on the planet who holds his position is now doing that position as a remote worker. And not only that, but after the lockdowns started to slow down, companies started to realize the benefits and the cost savings of having those people be remote workers. And now that's pretty much the mainstay of that position today. What comes up for you as I share all of that story?
That there's options if worst case scenario happens.
Like what options?
I could pivot and do something else or go temporarily work remotely for somebody to generate the income I need to until that pivot occurs. I think though in my mind, it's a fear thing. I don't want to go back to work because I've been my own boss for so long. It's hard to take direction from somebody. When you're a natural born leader, it's hard to fall under somebody's leadership when, and I've done it where you're like, oh, why are they doing this? I could do this so much more efficiently this way.
Let's go another route with this.
Okay.
Because, by the way, it's perfectly fine. I can't imagine myself going and getting a job and working for someone right now. But I would caution you against this very deep narrative of I'm unemployable. I hear that a lot, and I've kind of somewhat turned it into an auto suggestion. Yeah, I kind of agree with that. But the reality is that if somebody came to me and says, Cliff, you know what? We absolutely love who you are, what you've done in the world, all this other stuff. We have this company that does this in the world. And let's just say it's something that really resonates with me at a deep level. And they say, Cliff, what all we want you to do is we want you to come in and coach all of our senior leaders in our company. That's it. We just want you to come in and coach. We just want you to inspire them, motivate them. We don't want you to teach them any. We just want you to keep them motivated and inspired to continually press through all the mindset and limiting beliefs that come up. We recognize your ability to coach at this level. And you know what? We'll pay you $400,000 a year. And ideally, we'll need you at least 20 to 30 hours a week. Do you think I'd be employable at that rate?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd do that. As long as they didn't say, "Hey, you can't create content on the side, you can't do all this other stuff." I mean, there would be some caveats that I'd have to have sign off as writers. It's like, "Listen, I want to be able to do this. I'd still like to be able to host a conference every now and then. I'd still like to be able to host a workshop. I'd have to have some caveats that says that I can't do other things on the side. But yeah, I'd even work 40 hours a week for 400, $500,000 a year. I'm employable, is what I'm trying to say, under the right conditions. Doesn't that sound like a more powerful self narrative?
Yes, it does.
Rather than saying, oh, well, I'm unemployed. I just can't imagine myself working 50, 60 hours a week for the man, making $65,000 a year. That's just not going to cut it for me. That's not what employable is. I mean, employable is whatever you define employable as and what standards you set for yourself. So kind of keep that in mind. But with that being said, let's just throw the idea of employment out the window because you and I likely are not ever going to be employed again.
Right.
So with that being said, worst case scenario, the risks, destroy everything. How much money per month do you need to make? Let's just say if you had to go out and get another job, which you don't want to do, but if you had to go out and get another job, how much money per month would you need to make?
Probably like 120.
A year?
Yeah.
So that's 10K a month. Yes?
Yes.
And one of the ideas that you're pursuing and thinking about is coaching, correct?
Correct.
And you have, in your experience, how many years in the daycare industry?
Let's see, about 7 or 8 now.
7 or 8 years in the daycare industry. And if you were to work with somebody who is getting into daycare or somebody who is in daycare and they're struggling, they're about ready to go under, and you were to come in and help those people, do you think you could help turn things around with what you know?
Yes.
What kind of results do you think you could get for a company that's about ready to go under typically?
Depends on their area, how much damage they've done, but you could typically go in and just tighten up the reins and at least get them to a break-even point where they can start strategizing on growth or pivoting or sale, depending on where they're at.
Okay, so break even and pivot to sale. Let me just write that down. All right. So let's just take that for just a moment. Let's just say you have one daycare that was about ready to go under, and you came in, coached them, helped them tighten up the reins, got them to break even, pivot, and then they sold. Now, how much on average would that daycare business owner, that investor in that business, how much would they have lost had they gone under?
Probably some of them in excess of $1 million.
So you could have, you're saying your coaching could save somebody over $1 million.
Yes.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how true is that statement? Like absolutely gut feeling to you
Um,
personally.
a 9.
Okay. So, and at least $500,000, 250,000, but certainly because you're talking about real estate investment and all this other stuff. All of that could be foreclosed on and lost, correct?
Correct. Yeah, that would be building, clientele, lost revenues, equipment, because most people finance 100% of everything they do in daycare.
Yeah. So that's just one daycare. How many daycares throughout the United States do you think are on the verge of going under?
Probably a third.
So 1/3 of the industry. And how many daycares is that, would you say?
Maybe 20,000.
Okay. So of those 20,000, how many do you think that your coaching could get that kind of result?
I would say, well, how many would I actually reach out of that 20,000?
Nope. If all 20,000 of them knew about you, once they learned about you, they came to know, like, and trust you at least as much as you have come to know, like, and trust me since 2012. All right. So think about the rapport. Think about how much you know about the. But if they, and by the way, there are people, Reason, who will develop as much rapport, like, and trust in who I am after hearing about me a week ago that you have now. So I just want you to know it doesn't have to take from 2012 to 2023, but I just want you to think, if all 20,000 of those almost ready to go under daycares had the same level of confidence in your ability as you have in somebody like me, how many of those 20,000 could you help in the way that you just described?
Probably 25%.
25%. And the other 75%, they're just unhelpable.
Probably limited belief factors, fear. It's easier to do it this way. I don't need help. There's a lot of pride in this industry, I think.
So there's 5,000 that you could help. Is
Hmm.
that right? Is my math right
Correct.
on that? Okay. So out of the 5,000, do you think you could get two of them per month to pay you $5,000 for your coaching?
Yes.
So, worst case scenario, you lose everything and you need $120,000 a year. You just fire up a coaching business and you go out and you help people who are one of the 5,000 out of the 20,000 who are about ready to go under, and help them save their $1 million investment. And you sign them up for a 6-month contract or a 12-month contract. Actually, sign them up for a 12-month contract. What is 12 months times, what is that, $6,000?
Yeah.
No, that's $30,000.
For 5,000 a month. Yeah.
Yeah, 6 months for 5,000 is 30,000. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I trust your math because mine, I don't have my calculator
No,
in
it's
front of me.
it's 60. 5,000 a month. 5 times 10 would be 50. So it's 60 grand a year.
So yeah, so 30 for 6 months or 60 grand for a year.
Yep.
So just do it for a year. Say, listen, I come in, I'm gonna help you out. It's a 1 year relationship. We're gonna tighten the reins. We're gonna get you to break even. In fact, I'll even get you ready for sale. It's 60 grand. Are you in? payable $5,000 a month. Now, that person who clearly doesn't know how to do this on their own, they're about ready to go under and they're going to lose $1 million. Is this a wise investment to hire you at 60 grand?
Yeah, if they're going to lose everything.
So, if the worst case scenario happens, do you not see that you have the experience? And you also talked about the potential of coaching daycare companies anyway. Do you see that there are options available for you other than getting a 9 to 5 job?
I do. Yes, I do.
So, what's coming up for you now?
That I probably need to not listen necessarily to my, "Oh, no, we're changing again," because I hear that a lot in my mind is, "Oh, you're changing careers or businesses again. You're changing business again." I guess that doesn't really matter to the outside world. It just matters what we need to do in that moment.
Oh, it may matter a great deal to the outside world. The outside world needs fodder for gossip.
Yeah,
So, it will matter greatly to them. The question is, how much should it matter to you?
it shouldn't.
The question is what do you want to do? What do you want to create?
I want to I like that. I want to be able to help people. I believe in mutually beneficial relationships. If you have something that I need and I have something that you need, we can meet together and be mutually beneficial with those wants and needs. And I enjoy helping people. We're passionate about the daycare business. It's very, very needed. Um, and I always try to find ways that how can I incorporate my hobbies around what is needed and what I can make money at. So what? Because like I love content creation, just love it. So how can I create? How can I do my hobbies that I enjoy doing and incorporate it into my everyday work that generates income?
So you still have a daycare today? Just one daycare
We have
business?
2, opening our 3rd one, and we've
Gotcha.
never done that in the past. We only had 1 in the past.
So you have two now, opening a third.
Mhm.
Some people are questioning that you're growing too fast.
Yes, but I could grow faster.
And some people are cautioning you against that, but you could
Mhm,
grow faster. But your own confidence in what you're seeing is given your circumstances, given your experience of what you've been able to pull off in the past. With you've successfully sold daycares in the past as well.
mhm.
If things do grow too fast, you could pull off a sale. It sounds to me like is what's going on through your mind.
Yeah, there are some large daycare corporations that are acquiring small daycares all the time.
Hmm.
So it wouldn't be nothing to call one of those and say, "We're looking to, um, sell off what we have." And they would probably be interested because they're always moving into new communities.
So when I go back to the transcript that I pulled up, just an affirmation that I'm not crazy. So where are you on that? Do you have the affirmation that you're not crazy?
Yeah, yeah. I like to think of myself as more strategic.
Yeah. Let me ask you this: do you have anybody else other than how many coach? You say coaches. Do you have more than one coach right now?
So we are assigned one coach, but there are a dozen of them that we have access to.
Okay, and where's this through?
It's through childcare success. It's a large national brand, and I don't know how many clients they have. Probably over. I'm just going to take a stab, maybe 4 or 5,000.
Excellent.
And they do masterminds, and we do weekly coaching calls and things like that. But a lot of the calls are, basic stuff like how do I do this enrollment, say, for example, how can I tighten that up? It's not so much about strategy, which is what we need. It's more about the day to day operation, so to speak.
Have you ever thought about creating your own? paid mastermind group for people who are more heavily involved in the strategic entrepreneurial side of this?
I have only the only thing that has allowed me to think that way is we just onboarded a lady that owns 4 after school programs, and she wanted us to do her virtual assistants for her. So we onboarded her, and then through that process, she's like, "Well, I really need a coach. Would you be willing to do that?" And I
And
said,
what'd you say?
If you're at this membership level and you can, if as long as I'm available, you can schedule me on my calendar and I will sit with you for a half hour and go over those specific questions you have or where you're struggling. So that kind of lit a fire in me to say, I probably could do this. And
How
maybe
much
I
would you
should do this.
how much would you charge for that? Curiously.
Probably like $250 an hour if it's on a per diem basis.
Okay.
But if it was like a mastermind group, I'm not sure how to price that or where I could find resources to where, because I want it to be available to everybody. Because there's some people going into daycare that there's not a lot of
You don't want a mastermind group open to anyone and everybody. It'd be the worst mastermind group you'll ever have in your life.
so how would I determine the niche for that? Do I want to just target owners that are at this experience level? Because some of the owners are brand new and they don't know anything.
Yeah. Well, first of all, you wouldn't want somebody who has been in the daycare business for the last 35 years of their life in a group with that has 4 or 5 brand new daycare owners. Like they just opened their first location and they're like, "How do we do enrollment?" That group would be incredibly tedious and boring, and they would see no value in that group. The the divergence between their experience would just make it not compatible. Basically, the people in the group would get tons of value from them, but not enough value from the people coming in.
And if I can be honest with you, that's what we're seeing now on the one that we're in.
Hmm.
Even though they haven't broke up into like 4 different groups, the group that we're supposed to be in, we still have more value to offer than the the most successful people in that group, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. So when it comes to mastermind groups, my experience has been that you want to have some sort of affinity. So, for example, my next level mastermind group, it is all full-time self-employed business owners. And for a long time, I would allow anybody who also wanted to become a full-time self-employed business owner. And we did successfully help people navigate out of their day job and into their own full-time self-employment. And it was great, except for the fact it was a major energy drain on the very long, very seasoned, experienced entrepreneurs who've been in business and have dealt with how do I pay payroll coming up given this big huge unexpected situation. I mean, they've weathered that storm 20 different times in their career. So here's somebody having it for the very first time and they're like, "Oh my gosh, the sky is falling." And it's like, this dude, there's ways to handle this. Let's talk about this.
Right.
Get you can start breathing now and all this other stuff. And it's very helpful. But one of the things that I notice is like, wait a second, I to be able to keep these people who are very far advanced, I need to keep them in a group with people who are also along the same lines of experience as them. Not necessarily that everybody has to have the same level of experience. It's okay to have somebody in the middle, but that person in the middle who's a little bit further behind needs to have some characteristics or attributes that the other people don't have. They need to have some skills, some talents, and abilities that can actually offset the years of experience in business that these people have. You get where I'm coming from?
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas, so what I did is I then it's like, okay, I'm going to put all of my seasoned business owners in the AM group of the Next Level Mastermind. These are the ones who can show up on a Wednesday morning from 9 to 5. And then I put all of my new entrepreneurs or want to be an entrepreneur into the PM group. and so we did that. But even that had some seasoned business owners down here. But quite frankly, the focus for me was even a little bit more nuanced than that, and it was mindset. So it wasn't all business; it was
Mhm.
business mindset. There have been many people who have been in business for many years, some of them for over a decade or 2 decades. That quite frankly, they're still in business in spite of some of the very real significant mindset hurdles that they still are experiencing. Like some of them had emotional habit and patterns of blowing up and exploding in employees, which caused turnover. And so what decided is not only do I want demographics as far as the affinity, but also psychographics. So the more you can get a good feel of where these people are in a sweet spot, not just within a demographic, but also psychographic as well, holding high standards. The higher the standards are for you, and the more closely aligned these people are, the closer these people are in their experience of life as whatever this affinity group is, mine, full time self employed business owners, the higher the value is. Because every time somebody is in the hot seat, that the observer of the hot seat gets more value out of the other people's hot seats than they do their own. Because when they come into their own hot seat, they have their own questions, their own obstacles, their own advice they're seeking. But man, when somebody else is in the hot seat, somebody else is thinking about something they've never thought of doing before. And it's like, oh, I'm going to write that down. Oh wow, not only is that a great idea, that was great advice on how to accomplish that idea. This is where you get an incredibly powerful mastermind group. And this is where, for me, I've discovered you dial this thing in just right. You get the demographic right, and the affinity right, and the psychographic right. You get the alignment right, and you get all these people in the right space. I would never charge less than $1,000 a month for such a group. By the way, if you needed $10,000 a month, that's 10 people, one group. That's 2 hours a week of work to facilitate that group, maybe 4 to 6 hours a week to fill it through the Prosperous Coach method. That's
Yeah.
just another way you can make $10,000 a month.
It's how you get closer to that 4-hour work week, right?
I could care less about 4 hour work weeks. All I care about is when I'm working, am I having fun?
Right. Yeah. That's true. Yeah, if you're doing work that you love, you'll never work another day in your life. I believe that.
Hmm. Just looking. Okay, so first of all, do you think that you're going to ever have to go get a day job?
No.
Do you see there are multiple different ways that you could go and earn money?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, so you have the affirmation that you're not crazy. Let's see here, and that I do pivot, stick with what I'm doing. Just need you. Okay, maybe need some life coaching rather than career coaching. Okay, what do you when you say maybe I need some life coaching? Was what we just did a little bit more along the lines of that, or is
Yeah.
there anything more that comes to your mind when you think about life coaching that you might need?
No, that was it. I was just looking for uh, that affirmation that there are other options out there, and that when I feel like it's time to pivot or need to pivot, that I'm not. That it's okay to do so, and not so much what other people care so much. I guess maybe.
Again, I want to stress other people will care. People seem to have a great deal of interest in other people's business.
Yeah.
Usually not enough. They don't have enough interest in their own, but
Right.
they do to invest a lot of interest in other people's business.
That's true. That's
The
very true.
question is should that matter to you?
No, no, it should not matter at all. Because I need to do what's right for me and my family and my career, and not necessarily what they think or what they might judge that I'm doing, whether it's right or wrong in their mind. If I know it's right in mine, that's what I need to pursue.
Are you involved in some people's lives where that's the standard that they live by?
A family mostly. We have very limited family beliefs as far as it's not that they don't believe in us, it's just that they think we're pretty far out. They don't really express it, but it also a lot of my family feels like they can't be around us because we um, are a lot to we're very high functioning, hard to swallow people. Like when we talk about things, it's always about business, what we're doing next, because that's what we love doing is business.
Yeah.
And they all have jobs and that's not how they function. So they have a hard time relating to us.
My question for you is, do you have people in your life that function in with the mindset of what you were just saying just a moment ago? It's
Well,
like all that matters is what's right for me and I know what's right for myself and my family.
I
Do you
don't
have
think
people
in
in your
our
life that think and feel that way?
I don't think in our immediate life, no.
Okay. So, I'm sure you've heard the Jim Rohn quote, you will be the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Yes.
So, this may be a case where it could be time to look into upgrading your peer group. I know that you said that you're a part of some coaching through the daycare coaching company that you're with, and they have masterminds. But the question is, are those masterminds filled with people who are operating at this higher level of strategic thinking?
Some of them are, yes, but we only get to spend time with them 4 times out of the year.
Yeah.
It's in a controlled environment where there's not a lot of time just to expand on personal things. And then a lot of them live, across the nation and they're running multiple daycare, so it's not easy for them just to jump on a call or for us to go visit them or them to come visit us. So there's some limitations to that. And then for us to do anything locally, we would probably end up traveling an hour or better to meet with people in person.
Well, let's just toss the local for this to the side. So since November 2000, actually, let me just start with since October 2010, Pat Flynn, myself, Michael Stelzner from Social Media Examiner, Ray Edwards, Mark Mason, and Leslie Samuel. The 6 of us have been meeting for almost, is it over a decade now? Let's see here, October 2010. So 20, yeah, it's been over a decade. Anyway, every week we meet on Zoom. Now, when we first started, we were meeting via GoToMeeting because Zoom didn't exist yet, I don't think. But we've been meeting for every week for 1 hour. By the way, none of us pay for this group. Pat and Flynn and I started the group in October 2010, and it's a group. Now, I can tell you right now, an hour of each of our times, of any of our individual times, is worth way more because that's 4 hours a month that we meet on average. I can tell you right now that 4 hours is worth way more than $1,000 a month of investment. So we are each investing way more than $1,000 a month just in our time alone to meet for 1 hour every week.
Sure.
Now, do you think, knowing what you know about myself or any of those individuals, do you think we would do that if there was not a return on investment?
No.
Absolutely not. Then I started the Next Level Mastermind in November 2007. Oh, by the way, our mastermind group, we didn't start meeting in person until Michael Stelzner started doing his social media marketing world conference. The only time we ever see each other in person as a group is once a year at his social media marketing world conference. And that's not even required. That's not even required for us to be an incredibly successful group. In fact, the Next Level Mastermind that I've done since November 2017, the AM group has been meeting since November 2017, and then the PM group met until started at the same time, but we just ended that just this past summer because I was finally at like, you know what? I've been doing this for more than 5 years now. I don't think I need to work on Thursday evenings anymore. So I decided to wind it down. One member joined the AM group, and the others I finished out their contract with one-on-one coaching and support. And life has been grand ever since then. But we meet virtually now. Our Next Level Mastermind group is 90 minutes a week every week, but it's just a Zoom call. And there's no, in the last 5 years, there's been really, okay, so there have been two times. I hosted Free the Dream 2018, Free the Dream 2019, and we did have mastermind members come and meet, but not everyone. And it wasn't the full intent for us to meet, it's just an opportunity. So, with that being said, I just want to let you know you could host a mastermind group via Zoom, 90 minutes a week, and that's it. And I've generated over $1 million in revenue just from the Next Level Mastermind alone in the first 5 years.
That's huge.
But you don't have to charge money either. You can. I would highly suggest it. But regardless, whether you charge money, don't charge money, I encourage you to get yourself a mastermind group of people who are in your industry playing at the level that you are playing, and maybe a couple people a little bit higher that you're than you're where you're playing, and a couple of people behind where you're playing, but not too far behind.
Right.
Get yourself a group of 5 to 10 people of like that, and do life with people who get this way of seeing and being in the world.
So would you suggest getting a group of people that we meet with a weekly and then do a paid mastermind group on top of that for people that maybe are in a different level than we are?
So, first of all, let me explain. What I'm suggesting is for you to surround yourself with other people operating at your level of life. That's the only suggestion that I'm making to you. Now, I will come back to the other idea of doing a charge group. But what I'm suggesting is you really want to upgrade your peer group so that you don't feel like you need to worry about, have any concern about what these people are saying who don't really understand how you see the world.
Right.
If you're surrounded in by coaches who are not as risk adverse as who are more risk adverse than you are, who are causing you to question this and, don't do this, whatever, and they're not able to see the things that you're able to see when you tell them, then you want to see if you can find another group of people who are operating at a much higher level. That way, when their advice matches their advice, then it's like, oh, okay, it seems like nobody really sees things the way that I see it.
You-
Excuse me.
You're fine.
How I avoid making dangerous decisions in my life is, am I going against my own gut and intuition? That's first and foremost. Am I going against what would be advantageous for the type of relationship that I want to continue to experience with my wife? That's number two. And then, is there anybody else out there that sees it my way? If there's nobody else that sees it my way, maybe I've just deluded myself and I've had enough influence over my wife that she's deluded as well. And I'm sinking us to the bottom. Even then, what's the worst case scenario? I lose all my money. I'm in the hole. I owe hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. Am I going to have to go out and get a job? Well, if I do, it's okay. I'm employable. If somebody wants to pay me a lot of money that'll allow me to work, 20, 30, 40 hours a week and pay off my debt and I get to do what I love, that'd be great. I'm still employable. But chances are I'm probably going to find something much more profitable for me to go and pivot and do on my own, because guess what? I have this whole universe, God behind me,
Mhm.
that says I am here and I'm still breathing and I can still create. And so I'm going to find a way. And the reason why I have all of this is because I'm surrounded by people that only live life this way. Knock us down, we'll get up. You can knock us down 80 times, we'll get up 81 times. Knock us down 90 times, we'll get up 91 times. That's who we are. I live life with people who see life this way. But there are some things that I won't go against. I won't go against my intuition. I won't go against my gut. I won't go against what is going to be within my wife's desired scenario.
Sure.
So, myself, my spouse, My peer group.
Makes sense.
And by the way, I don't always follow the advice of my peer group. I was thankful that one person agreed with me, but even, you know what, even if that other person, even if Ray Edwards didn't agree with the pivot from I still would have shut it down.
Yeah. It had to be a hard hurdle to leap because you've done that for so long and we're so skilled at it.
It was not hard. It just took a bit of time, effort, and energy to put into a strategic plan. And it took patience to not just jump straight out of podcasting. Because I wanted to start this. My first dream. Now I've got you coughing. I apologize. I started this dream of leaving Podcast Answer Man behind in January of 2015. I didn't speak about it publicly until January 2016. But when I spoke about it publicly, the decision had been made. And then all throughout 2016, I invested way more hours than you could possibly imagine into studying mindset. And I began to implement it and coach the most important person I've ever coached in my life, and that is me. I began to take everything I learned and studied and applied it to me and my own scenario first. And as people began to say, Cliff, I'm noticing major shifts. How are you doing this? Would you like to have a coaching conversation? And then I would get into a coaching conversation and I would ask them questions and I would actually coach them on what I'd been coached on. And I'd help them find the same exact breakthroughs, transformations in their own life. Eventually, I started asking people to pay me for that. And I asked people to pay me for more. And I started hosting in-person workshops. In my very first in-person workshop, I'm like, oh my gosh, nobody's going to come here and pay $1,000 to travel to Northern Kentucky to hear me talk about mindset. You know, it's not like it's Disney. It's not like Orlando. You're not going to go to Disney World while you're here. Fly to Northern Kentucky. Yay! So I went to my mastermind group, and you know what they told me? Why don't you just go ahead and do a next level podcasting A to Z course? And I'm like, oh, that sounds so much better. And so I said, okay, I'm going to do that. That'll be my first in-person workshop. Except for the fact that as soon as I went to go do any task related to that item, my soul died. It's like, you're killing me. And so I wouldn't take any action. You know, people tell me, how do you get over procrastination? Well, what are you procrastinating on? Why don't you want to do it? A little piece of me dies inside. Well, stop it.
Yeah.
What? You stop what? Take it off your to-do list.
Yeah.
You know, that's how you end procrastination. Take it off your to-do list. There you go. So I took it off my to-do list and I said, okay, well, I'm not going to do a next level podcasting A to Z course. There's no life in that for me. There's no heart in that. So what I chose to do is I'm going to do a building an online business workshop. Yes, nobody's ever asked me, Cliff, can you teach me how to build an online business? Except that I have helped hundreds, if not thousands of people build an online business around their podcasting. So I do have lots of experience to offer. And I've built my own business that's generated millions of dollars in revenue. And I hang out every week for an hour with some of the most successful online business owners on the planet. Some of my clients who I've trained are some of the most successful online business owners on the planet. My mentors are the most successful online business owners on the planet. I've learned, I've studied. Yes, I can teach this. And so I went and then all of a sudden it's time for me to finally send it out. I've got the sales page and I'm freaking out because now there's only 6 weeks until this workshop. And I'm going to ask people to pay $1,000 and I'm freaking out. And I texted Ray Edwards, can you give me a pep talk? And he calls me up and he says, Cliff, why aren't you charging $5,000 for this? And so by the end of it, I'm like, okay, I feel great. I still only charged $1,000, but I did it. 8 people, by the way, paid $1,000, traveled to Northern Kentucky. One guy was in his mid 50s, and he had been an entrepreneur his entire life, and a friend brought him. He's like, and he comes in, it's like, oh gosh, who is this guy? This guy's been in business for how long? It's like a third of what I have as experience. And by the end, he was my number one testimonial. And he says, Cliff, you have to at least double the price of this thing. And since then, I charge $2,000 a person with an option of $7,500 for one person to spend a whole extra day. Sold it out time after time, making $35,000 a weekend. This is what's happening from 2016 all the way through early 2017. And then I'm finally at the place where it's like, okay, I've proven to myself that I can actually sell business and mindset coaching with no discussion whatsoever of podcasting. And then in October 2017, and after I read the book, The Big Leap, everything changed. I said, this is October 2017, final session of podcasting A to Z. This is your last time. Now, the great news is that 60 people, I think, signed up for that at $2,000 a piece, which was a pretty good, sizable month of income. So people came in, and boy, I served my butt off. And I had this buffer of cash that I had put aside and saved up. And then I went to play. I said, for the next 90 days, I must find at least 20 people to pay me $1,000 a month to be in my next level mastermind AM or PM group. And within 90 days, I had 24 people paying $1,000 a month. So it wasn't hard. I had to know what I want. I had to know why it was important and why it must happen. I had to believe that it was possible. And then I had to decide that it was going to happen. And then I needed to work the plan as it became available.
Did you find yourself, though, having already a pretty large, you obviously had a large crowd of people to pull from. What would you suggest for somebody that does not have a large crowd of people to pull from?
Hold on. Let me see if I can get that there. I don't think you can. There it is.
Yes.
The Prosperous Coach by Steve Chandler and Rich Litvin. So this book I read in July of 2019. By this time, I had already used the internet marketing method. So sure, I was able to do what I did when I did because I had over a decade of building an audience and brand and mailing list, all the stuff that you know that I have.
Mm-hmm.
In July of 2019, I read this book, The Prosperous Coach. And when I read that book, it says, hey, here's how you can build a prosperous coaching business without any need for a website, without the need for a mailing list, without the need for a blog or a podcast, any of that stuff, by relationships and referrals only, or by invitation and referral only. I'm like, okay, yeah, right, whatsoever. So I read the book. And by the end of it, I'm like, I've got to read that again. I read it a second time, and I immediately went into implementation. Now, for me, I made $390,000 in 90 days using the system. Then everybody's like, well, Cliff, that's great, but not everybody has your pool of community to pull from. I said, awesome. Do me a favor. Tie both hands behind my back. So here's what I did. For 90 days, I refused to create a single piece of content. I stopped showing up on social media, and I said, I will not connect with, I will not invite, and I will not coach any potential client that has ever heard my name before for 90 days. And it did not impact my income. All I did is I went out and found people in different places. I found people, because people, guess what? As a coach, who's my audience? My audience is anyone who has a dream of something more than they're currently experiencing in life, but are not actually living that experience of life, typically because of some limiting belief, a habitual pattern of thinking, a pattern of emotional states, or a habitual pattern of behaviors. And I know how to help people break all of those habitual patterns so that they can take different actions, so that they can experience the different life that they desire. Now, gee, I wonder if there's any people on this planet where I could find that's, you know, that haven't heard the name Cliff Ravenscraft before. And the answer is yes, there's lots. Now, if I even want to niche it down and say, okay, business owners, well, are there full time self employed business owners that have never heard the name Cliff Ravenscraft? Yes, lots of them, believe it or not. So it's not that big of a deal. The book teaches you a 4-step process. It is connect, invite, create, and propose. It couldn't be any more simpler than that. It takes a little bit of practice to get into the groove of coaching if you're new to coaching, but it's definitely doable.
Very good.
So, Reason, let me read through this thing here. Like, where do I go? What's the return on investment? Because when you have family, you have a supportive family, you know that money can be gone tomorrow. So let me ask you this. Can the money actually ever be gone tomorrow?
It could be, but it doesn't have to be.
All right. And let's just say if it does, what does that mean?
I have to hustle and do something else or do something to replace that income quickly.
All right. And do you have that ability?
I do.
And would you be starting over from scratch or do you have to learn everything all over again?
I would not be starting over from scratch. I would be employing the skills and knowledge I already have.
Yeah. How many stories have you heard, or let me ask you this. Have you ever heard a story of anyone who has built an incredible amount, like self-made person? I'm not going to say man, but a self-made person who has built incredible wealth and lost it all, owing millions of dollars in debt, only to build it all back within 3 to 5 years?
I don't know anybody that's done that.
Okay. So I want you here. Can I give you an assignment?
Yes.
I would want you to go and find at least 5 stories. Actually, no. I wouldn't. I want you to I want you to research and find the names of 10 people who have done what I just told you. And if you want, you can cheat. You can go on the internet and do a research. People who have lost all their wealth and built it all back within 3 to 5 years. Should be able to find a list of at least probably 100 or 1,000 or 10,000. And once you have discovered and found that this is accurate, ask yourself if this were true. Let's just assume it were true. That hundreds of thousands of people have done this, built incredible wealth, lost everything, and built it back more than once even. By the way, it's not the most apropos time politically in our world to state this name, but Donald Trump has been that over and over again.
Dave Ramsey did it once, right?
Dave Ramsey did it once. If you know about Dave Ramsey, do you know Dan Miller?
I do know of Dan Miller. I don't know a lot of him, though.
Well, Dan Miller did the same thing. So there's 3. And by the way, feel free to put those 3 on your list of 10. So why do you suppose it might be possible somebody who could build their net worth into the millions, hundreds of millions, or even billions, lose it all, be in debt, and then gain it all back within 3 to 5 years?
Because they have the knowledge and the transferable skills to pivot if they have to.
Yeah. And do you or do you not have the knowledge and the transferable skills to get yourself back to where you are right now if you were to lose it all?
I do. I do.
So do you have a concern about the fact that you have a family and the money could be gone tomorrow?
Not anymore. I don't.
Awesome. Let's see here. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, I think we covered this. So when you're an entrepreneur, you're either making it or not. making it. There's no fallback. So let's dig into that one for just a moment. Uh, what would you say is your skill level of putting money aside when you are quote unquote making it?
Well, we've done it. We were completely debt free. We paid off all of our debt in probably like 3.5 years.
Nice.
And then we chose to move closer to this area and had to take out another mortgage, put us back in debt. So I always wanted to be in a position in life where if the economy completely flipped upside down, it wouldn't take very much to support our needs.
Yeah.
When you get a mortgage again and start that process again, it kind of puts you in a level of uncomfortability.
No, if I can challenge you on that, you put yourself in a level of uncomfortability. The more getting a mortgage does not. Getting the mortgage is just a thing. How uncomfortable you feel about it is something you're doing to yourself.
Yeah.
Process that for just a moment. It's
It's a it's a
what would
mindset
what would you have to believe to feel uncomfortable about getting a mortgage?
that I would fail in business and not be able to make it.
Okay. So you would have to believe that. And if you believe that, then that belief would be the cause of some uncomfort in getting a mortgage. Yes?
Yes.
So
Uh,
getting a mortgage causes that
No,
belief?
no.
All right.
But
And let
that's
me
been
ask you this. Do you believe that?
I don't believe that.
There you go.
But it's been a cycle in my life. Like even during our most prosperous years, I was always looking for a backup because it could be over.
There you
Instead of
go.
living in the moment of prosperity and enjoying it, I was always anxious about what's next because this could go away. So I never really enjoyed when we were successful. I was always looking for the next thing to pivot to in case bad times hit.
So remember, I told you I'm always looking for people who have a desire of life, an experience of life, but they're not always experiencing what they most want to experience. And it's usually due to a cycle of belief, a pattern, a habit of belief, or a cycle or a habit of thinking. And you just expressed exactly what I'm talking about. It's this: every time things are going right, I'm waiting for I had a client who always told me, I'm just waiting for the next shoe to drop.
Mhm.
And guess what? The next shoe always dropped. Have you ever read the book The Big Leap?
I have not. I've heard you
Th-
talk a lot about it.
this book is a must read for you. It's by Gay Hendricks. And not only do I have, the whole Gay Hendricks, I have an entire content catalog related to this. In fact, I'm going to send it to you after our session today, and I'm going to show it on the screen here just because I want people to see how much of an important book this is. Gay Hendricks. And let me present my screen, share screen, and I want to do a window. There we go. Are you seeing this?
I do. Yep.
So I'm going to send this to you. If I click here, hit share, publish, it's published. So what I'll do is I'll copy this link and then let me go over to our notes. Go and we'll go to add new meeting.
I love Notion, by the way.
Oh, I do too. All right, so I'm going to put that in here, and let me show you what you're going to get. So obviously, here's my notes on Gay Hendricks and the Zone of Genius. There's content, episode 514, Pursuing the Zone of Genius, an initial response to the Big Leap, September 5th. So there I think if you click this, it'll take you to that podcast episode if you want to hear it. And then here's a vlog taking the big leap. This was my first reaction after reading the book. Then this is me making an announcement to the world that I'm going to definitely take the big leap and leave podcasting consulting behind. Here's where I made that was on September 7th. Here's September 14th, 1 week later, said, you know what? I'm not going to take a leap 1 year from now. I'm taking it, next month. So this is your last chance. And then how to discover your zone of genius. Ray Edwards came into studio with me and we discussed that. Episode 519, an interview with Gay Hendricks. And then a quick update regarding my pursuit of my zone of genius. So this is right before I ended my A to Z session. And then 537, 6 months after the big leap. And then let's see here. This is TCR 560, success and failures, what I learned after my first year of the big leap. And then do you know your zone of genius in 683. And then, of course, this will also have the actual questions. If you just fill in these blanks and answer these questions, you'll discover what your zone of genius is. So I'm going to send all of that to you after our call today.
Okay. I appreciate that.
Yep. Now, we've got 7 minutes left. Did we cover what it is that you most wanted to accomplish out of our call today?
I feel like we did, yes.
What would you say is your top 1, 2, or 3 insights you've gotten?
That I can't have limiting beliefs, that I'm not employable, and that I can't pivot quickly if worst case scenario happens.
So pause right there.
Mm.
You can have those limiting beliefs as long as you want them. My question is, have you broken up with those limiting beliefs?
I think it's a process, but I'm on the journey to break up with those beliefs.
Okay. So I'm going to write down the insight. Not that I can't have them. So let me see if it's more accurate to state, because you understand you can have them, right?
Right.
You can. I always tell clients that I will never take away from you your limitation. If you wanna argue for your limitation, I'll let you keep it every single time. You can definitely keep these things. Because you know what? They keep you safe. They make you feel like you're safe. And I don't want to take away your feeling of safety if that's important to you. So you understand that you can continue to keep those beliefs, right?
Yes.
All right. So instead, maybe is I'm aware that I want to break up with the belief that. So is that correct?
Yes.
I'm aware that I want to break free from the following limited beliefs. Number 1 was, what was the first one?
That I can pivot if I have to. If our business completely fails, that there's a pivot for me that I can do.
Okay. So the limiting belief is I can't pivot if I fail. All right, give me a minute because you said another limiting belief in there, and I'm gonna go back to your thing. So just bear with me for a second.
Mhm.
Okay. What would you say is your top? Okay, so I can't have limiting beliefs that I'm okay. I'm okay. So the next one is I'm unemployable. And the other one is I can't pivot quickly in worst case scenario. Okay, I can't pivot quickly in worst case scenario. Got it. Okay, so I've got everything now. So far, your greatest insight is that you want to break up with two beliefs. One is I can't pivot quickly if the worst case scenario happens. The second one is I want to break up with this belief that I'm unemployable. All right. What other insights have come to you?
The third one is that it's okay to recognize that there's a fear in doing things, but to enjoy successes in life while they're happening and not always be looking for the next best thing.
It's okay to experience it's okay to experience fear and still enjoy life as it brings great experiences or in the moment. All right. Let me ask you this. What are some actions that you know that you should take over the next 2 weeks?
Start looking for peers that operate at my level or within my level to help bounce ideas off of and just meet with.
All right.
Pursue pursue coaching people because I think it's something that I really have always aspired to do, and I think it's needed and it's beneficial for probably just for as much for them as me, because you're going to also meet other people that are in different unique situations that you're like, oh, I never looked at things like that. So even though you're coaching them, they're offering valuable insight to um, grow your expertise.
Yeah. Okay. So pursue coaching people as an option. And then will you read The Big Leap?
I will read The Big Leap, and I'm also
And
going to find my 10 people that have lost everything and rebuilt their wealth back.
find list of 10 people who lost everything, built back. Got it. Awesome. So that, my friend, is what a coaching experience is like. This is awesome. Thank you, Reason, so much for giving me this opportunity to connect with you today. I'll
Thank
tell
you
you
for.
what. Go ahead.
Oh, I said thank you. I appreciate it a lot.
It is my pleasure. We're going to continue to talk for just a second offline. But real quickly, I just want to say to everybody who may be watching this streamed live, or if you're watching the replay, I want to let you know that I am doing these live stream coaching sessions. If you are interested in volunteering to be coached live while we're streaming on the internet, everything's being recorded. I might even potentially use some of this content as podcast content for my various different shows. If you are interested, feel free to email me, cliff@cliffravenscraft.com. Again, that's cliff@cliffravenscraft.com. I'm going to go ahead and click my banner here. Of course, if you guys are interested in coaching with me privately, you've got some things that maybe you don't want to talk about in a public manner, you can also reach out to me, cliff@cliffravenscraft.com. Either put live stream coaching in the subject line, or I need some private coaching in the subject line. I'd love to hear from you. Again, it's cliff@cliffravenscraft.com. And with that, I'm just looking for my little banner here to close us out. I wish you all great success. Reason, thank you so much. Hey, if anybody wanted to find out and learn from you about your daycare business and coaching, where could they reach out to you from? Or how could they reach out to you?
They can reach out to me. Just go to hcchildcare.com and they
And
can just
what does HC stand for?
Heritage Christian Childcare.
hcchildcare.com.
Yep, they can reach out there, or they can just reach me at my personal email. It's Rezin, Rezin, Howes, Howes, at iCloud.com.
There you go. Thank you guys so much. Until next time, we encourage you to take everything you do to the next level. Bye bye.